The wind across the Montana plains that October carried the bite of winter, and something worse, the hollow echo of a life erased. Evelyn Harper stood on the sagging porch of the Double H Ranch, clutching her late husband's flannel shirt to her chest like a child with a security blanket. The sleeves still smelled faintly of his aftershave, cedar and coffee, and she pressed her face into the fabric, breathing him in one last time before the scent faded forever. The mailbox at the end of the gravel drive was empty. It had been empty for 21 days. No letter from her son, no apology. Just the low moan of the wind and the distant bawl of cattle that no longer belonged to her. She was 72, widowed 6 months, and, according to the bank, homeless. The call had come while she was in the feed store in Billings, buying a single sack of oats for whiskey, the last horse she could afford to keep. The clerk, a kind boy named Jesse, had helped her lift it into the cart. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered, expecting a telemarketer. "Mom, it's done," Wyatt said. His voice was crisp, efficient, like he was closing a business deal, not dismantling his mother's world. "The ranch sold. The horses are gone. I wired you 20 grand, enough for a condo in town. We're leaving for London tonight. Dad's old truck brought scrap value. Bye." She stood frozen between the dog food and the salt licks. Jessie touched her arm. "Ma'am, you okay?" Evelyn opened her mouth. No sound came. She paid for the oats, loaded them into the bed of her ancient Chevy, and drove the 2 hours home under a sky the color of tarnished silver. When she reached the ranch gate, it stood open. The Double H brand burned into the arch now mocked her. A moving crew had already stripped the house, the pine table where Thomas used to carve the Thanksgiving turkey, the quilt rack her mother had pieced during the blizzard of '78, the framed photo of Wyatt at 8, gap-toothed and proud on his first pony. Gone. She walked through the empty rooms like a ghost. In the kitchen, she found a single coffee mug on the counter, Thomas's favorite, chipped from the day Wyatt threw it in a tantrum at age 10. She picked it up. It slipped from her trembling fingers and shattered. That was when she cried. Not for the house, not for the money. For the boy who used to run to her with scraped knees and muddy boots, who once fell asleep on her lap during a thunderstorm, whispering, "Don't let go, Mama." She had let go. Or he had. She carried the oats, the quilt from her truck seat, and a manila envelope she'd forgotten was wedged behind the visor. Thomas had pressed it into her hand 3 nights before the aneurysm took him. They'd been sitting on the porch swing, watching the stars come out. He'd been quiet all evening. Finally, he took her hand. "Ev, if anything happens to me, this is for you. Only open it when you're ready, and only if you need it." She kissed his forehead. "Nothing's going to happen to you, old man." But it did. At 6:12 a.m., while she was making coffee, he kissed her cheek, said, "Good morning, my love," and collapsed at the table. She held him as the light left his eyes, whispering, "Don't let go, Thomas. Don't let go." She hadn't opened the envelope. Grief had numbed her. Until now. Inside, a single brass key, a flash drive, a letter in Thomas's neat engineer script. "My Ev, I was never good with words, you know that, but I was good with plans. The ranch was never the whole pie. I bought distressed oil leases in the Bakken when nobody wanted them, turned mineral rights into shares, shares into a trust. The Double H is the tip. The rest is in the drive. Password, the day we branded our first calf together, 03/07/1978. Wyatt thinks money grows on startup servers. Let him learn it grows in the ground first, and in a mother's heart. I'm sorry I kept this from you. I wanted to protect you from worry. From him. You were always the strong one. Now, be the wise one. Love you bigger than Montana, bigger than forever. T. Evelyn's hands shook so hard the key rang against the table like a spur. She plugged the drive into the ancient laptop. Files unfolded. Deeds to 14,000 acres of mineral rights, stock certificates in 3 pipeline companies, a brokerage account, $42,718,204.31. She stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. Then she laughed, sharp, startled, the sound echoing off bunkhouse walls. The buyers who'd paid Wyatt $1.8 million for the surface ranch, they'd bought a postage stamp. She owned the envelope it came in. But she didn't call a lawyer. She brewed coffee in a dented pot, wrapped herself in the quilt, and began to cry. Not for the money, for the boy who used to fall asleep on her lap, for the son who had forgotten how to come home. Wyatt Harper landed in London believing himself a genius. His app, Rancher, would disrupt agriculture. He leased a glass-walled office in Shoreditch, hired developers with man buns, and burned through the ranch money in 8 weeks. On the night of the demo crash, he stood on the balcony of his Soho flat, drunk on gin and despair. Cressida, his fiancée, packed her Louis Vuitton. "You said you were rich," she sneered. "You said your mom was just a ranch wife." "She was," he shouted. "She had nothing." "Then why are you crying over a stupid truck?" He didn't answer. Because he was crying. Over the truck. Over the photo of him at 8. Over the way his mother used to sing, "You Are My Sunshine," while braiding his hair before school. Cressida laughed with his Rolex and the lease. By Christmas, Wyatt was back in Billings, sleeping on a friend's couch. The friend worked for a drilling company. "Need a job, Harp? Roughneck pays decent. You'll hate it." Wyatt hated it, but he needed to feel something other than shame. Spring came early. The oil patch boomed. Wyatt worked the rigs, 14-hour shifts in -20 wind, hands cracked and bleeding, living in a man-camp trailer that smelled of diesel and despair. Every night he wrote a postcard. He never mailed them. They piled up in a cigar box. "Mom, I dream about the ranch every night. I dream about Dad teaching me to rope. I dream about you making biscuits. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Evelyn heard all this through the small-town telegraph. She sold the Chevy, bought a second-hand Subaru, and moved into a one-bedroom in town, officially the broke widow everyone pitied. She joined the senior center, played bingo, let neighbors bring casseroles. No one suspected the widow and the faded Wranglers owned half the Bakken. But every night, she sat alone in her tiny apartment, holding Thomas's chipped mug, and cried. Not for the money, for the boy who used to fall asleep on her lap, for the son who had forgotten how to come home. July. 105 degrees on the rig floor. Wyatt's crew hit a gusher, black gold spraying like champagne. The company threw a barbecue. Evelyn catered it herself, anonymous in an apron, serving brisket to men who called her ma'am. Wyatt spotted her across the picnic tables and went white as milk. "Mom, I heard you boys struck it rich. What are you doing here?" "Same as you, earning my keep." He followed her to the dessert table. "I wrote you. Every check. I got them. I know I don't deserve—" "You don't, but you're going to." That night, Marisol Reyes, the trust attorney from Bozeman, served papers at the man camp. The drumming company, now owned by Harper Legacy LLC, was promoting Wyatt to assistant superintendent, and the ranch? Surface rights reverted quietly to Evelyn. The Yoga Bros sold back for pennies, desperate to escape lawsuits. August. Evelyn drove the Subaru out to the ranch at sunrise. Wyatt's pickup rumbled up behind her. He climbed out, hat in hand. "Mom, Look around, son. The fences are down, weeds choke the garden, but the sky was the same endless blue. This is what you sold, not the dollars, the mornings, the work, the love. I know. His voice cracked. I was ashamed to come home. You're here now. She handed him the brass key. Safety deposit box in Billings. Inside is a deed to the North Quarter, your grandfather's original homestead. It's yours if you want it, but there's a condition. Anything. You live on it, work it. No investors, no apps, just dirt under your nails and sunrise in your coffee. 1 year, then we talk. Wyatt stared at the key. And the oil money? We'll fund a cooperative. Local kids, veterans, single moms, anyone who wants to learn ranching. You'll run it. Salary same as the rig. No trust fund parachute. He swallowed hard.
I don't know if I can. You already did the hard part. You learned what breaking your back feels like. Now learn what mending a heart feels like. Fall turned to winter. Wyatt moved into the original homestead cabin. Tin roof, wood stove, no Wi-Fi. He fixed fences with hands that still remembered to hode, but now calloused over. Evelyn visited on Sundays, bringing elk stew and silence. One Sunday, she found him on the porch swing, the same one where Thomas had given her the envelope. He was holding the chipped mug. I found this in the bunkhouse, he said. I broke it when I was 10. You glued it back together. I remember. I thought you'd throw it away. Some things are worth fixing. Spring again, the cooperative took shape. 10 families, 20 kids, a herd of Red Angus. Wyatt taught coding on Saturday mornings, using spreadsheets to track calf weights, not to chase unicorns. One evening, Evelyn found Wyatt branding the first calf of the season. The iron hissed, the calf bawled. Wyatt's eyes were wet. Remember when you were 8 and swore you'd never shovel manure again? She asked. He laughed through tears. I lied. No, you grew up. She handed him a beer. They watched the sun sink behind the crazy mountains. Think Dad's watching? Wyatt asked. Every branding, every sunrise. Wyatt clinked his bottle against hers. To second chances. To earning them, Evelyn whispered, voice thick with love. The Double H Cooperative covered 20,000 acres. Wyatt's daughter June learned to rope before she could read. Evelyn, 82, still drove the Subaru. On the anniversary of Thomas's death, mother and son rode out to the North Ridge. Wyatt pulled a letter from his saddlebag, yellowed, postmark London, never opened. Mom, I dream about the ranch every night. I dream about Dad teaching me to rope. I dream about you making biscuits. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I mailed this 10 years ago. I was too scared to send it. I'm sending it now. Love, Wyatt. Evelyn read it. Tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. She folded it, tucked it into her pocket, and looked at her son, tall, weathered, kind, the boy who had come home. Below them, the ranch spread out, fences mended, fields green, children laughing. The wind carried the sound of a child's voice. Grandma, look, I roped the calf. Evelyn closed her eyes. We did it, Thomas. Bigger than Montana, bigger than forever. And somewhere in the endless blue, a cowboy tipped his hat and smiled.